Hello, everyone. Welcome to this week's episode of ClueCon Weekly. This week with us is Vasilios Tzanoudakis from his company Voiceland, based in Greece, CTO and co-founder. Thank you for joining us today, Vasilios.
Thank you very much. Thank you for the invitation. I'm very pleased to meet you, Luca, and also I'm very pleased to meet also Ivan McGee some days ago here in Athens. He was
Oh,
also
yeah.
here for the Opensips Summit here in Athens. We had a great time sharing information. Of course, meet each other for the first time, and that was great. And also after almost 3 years, the first conference I was able to attend in person.
Oh,
So
yeah. They're coming back.
yeah, and also I hope to be able also to join the next ClueCon. Why not? It's one of my next dreams.
ClueCon is next week, so I mean next year, ClueCon
Yeah. Yes.
2023. Yeah, that's going to be back in August, so it's a bit easier for people from Europe to attend.
Yes.
Well, ClueCon this year is actually next week. Like I'm traveling tomorrow to
Yeah, I
Chicago
know.
to
I know.
to be at ClueCon, so it's going to be interesting. So, I know you have a long and interesting history in voice over IP. So why don't we start with how you got started, what's your journey, and how you got to where you're now?
Oh my God,
Hmm.
it's been a long journey. Okay, I remember myself starting on 2002, 2003, and I remember my first protocol was H323. So
Wow, yeah.
that was my first, uh, let's say, uh, communication protocol platform or something like that. I remember I have made it to work somehow. I even don't remember how I did that. Uh, but then, of course, I was in the university that day, so that was my first try. I was responsible for the university local network and responsible for a small for the team of the voice over IP network uh, in uh, in the university. But it all started almost 2003 for and looking and searching around about telecommunication protocols. Uh, all those RFCs were also very, very new that days. And then I remember myself dealing first with, of course, Asterisk on the early days, and some hardware interfaces with uh, Zaptel, Zapata stuff to make it
Oh,
work.
Zapata, yeah.
Do you remember that? It,
Oh,
it was it
yeah.
was it was very, very funny. I remember sometimes everything worked and suddenly it stopped working and then restart and everything worked again. But
Yeah, H323 is sort of still alive.
yes,
There are systems, that, right? It's people still use it. Well, it's so weird. And what else? I think
so
that's also less old than we think.
yes,
IAX, all
yes,
new
yes.
stuff for sure. Good, yeah.
Yes, yes, but yes, then of course uh, I was very deep into asterisk mode, and then with with my efforts to develop and try to make things work with Opensips and Asterisk, and this is how all started. So many years ago, that was my first start of a job, learning and trying to make things work. And so here we are.
Mhm.
We made something so we could be able to serve our first customer. So everything started with one of my friends and colleagues from the university, and starting started our own company step by step, and uh, finally we make it to work. We had our first voice over IP customer, business customer, already set in one server somewhere where I, I I really don't remember the company name, please. But it was a cheap one.
It's been a long time.
Yeah, it's been some times ago, some years back. I don't even remember the name of the company that we had our first server, but I do remember that it was about $50 per month, something like that.
What about FreeSwitch? Have you been using
Yeah,
FreeSwitch
every
recently
day.
or oh, every day? Yeah. Will you say you're
Every day.
using
That's
more FreeSwitch or more Asterisk these days?
uh, uh, okay. Right now, it's most of our infrastructure right now is running free switch on media servers on the media services part.
Mhm.
Of course, there are some also some asterisk ones, maybe some older ones, but I think right now the percentage of the free switch is about 70 to 80%. So let's say we have some SBC servers. These are running RTP engines, but regarding the media part and what we have also uh, uh, in our new architecture, most of them is free switch and less asterisk. But I always was a true believer of what works for you best. You should keep it, and we have found many things from free suites that works very well for us. Right now, almost uh, more than 50% of our customers are using media services from free suites right now, and this is how we keep it. Uh, my one maybe a team creates a service using a free switch. Maybe a team creates a service using asterisk. Everything is the way we have architecture our platform. We can work with anything our developers design. So if this is on free switch, we go with free switch. If it's with asterisk or any other media service like RTP engine, for example, so we can also use it. But yes, free switch and has the last few years has made a good and great steps forward regarding many things. Uh, let's say in the telecom industry, and yes, it gives us, I think, more power and maybe sometimes better performance, as we have already seen. And yes, of course, video capabilities. Wow, I didn't expect that to come.
Yeah,
Uh,
there's a lot there. So speaking of FreeSwitch, you build applications of all sorts around it. What are your main configuration and modules and stuff? Like, for example, I'll give you an example. When I build FreeSwitch apps, I'm generally using mod XML curl for almost everything backed by a web app because I am a developer, first of all,
huh,
a DevOps expert second,
yeah,
and only
yeah.
third, I am a telephony expert. So I usually just run everything in a web app, and FreeSwitch does the magic stuff. What are your favorite configuration and tools around FreeSwitch?
Yeah, I think you have said all the truth by yourself, and this is the truth. And in my opinion, this is the only way you can get through and have this performance. And of course, to let's say have a better experience if you have let's say some millions of calls
Oh yeah.
in your platform. So yes, mod XML curl, of course, and free switch boxes, many of them,
Oh yeah.
and using some kind of load balancer in front. We're using Opensips for that, and of course. This is the only way we think, and we have learned so far that it fits our needs. So we can give our customers the best experience, the best performance, and for our APIs to work quickly and robust. So yes, my favorite module too. Yes.
Cool. Yeah. And
It,
what do you usually use as a SBC or load balancer or whatever? So for people, many people, well, most people know, but usually you want to have your FreeSwitch servers wrapped in something like an SBC or a load balancer, traffic routing, whatever layer. What's your favorite? OpenSips or Camellio?
uh,
No
uh,
explanations. Just say one of them.
no, no, no.
No, I'm just
I
kidding, of course. I mean,
I
but
have
because
used
people really choose. Like, if you ask someone who's really a Camellia fan, they will say, "I will never use OpenSips," or vice versa. Well, they're both great. So,
I really agree with that, and I will tell you again that everything you design and everything you make it work in one platform that can work for you and work for your business, and be secure, be performance, have the best performance, and suits your needs. I think this is the way you should stick. So. Uh, on our side, we have tried both platforms. We have used both of them, but we mainly stick to the OpenShips
hmm.
side. And
Yeah,
it
maybe it's just knowledge. Like, you've just done more with it. It's not.
and
There's not a better one.
I really agree with that because most of I see many people arguing about stuff, and maybe the Camaillio maybe has many new features. It seems like the OpenShips is it seems that it's missing some features, but in the end of the day, if you know how you can deal with them, you can find that it's nearly not missing anything. Okay, the the first one that I can think right now has to do with the IMS capabilities for the Camaillio, but uh, I really can't find anything that needs to be done and can't be done, let's say, with one or the other open source project. So yes, most of our infrastructure right now uh, is OpenShips. We use them as an edge proxy, as an SBC, and where you're doing a load balancer. They have a great module that can cooperate with FreeSwitch, so we can using the ESL FreeSwitch library, event socket library, and we can communicate with FreeSwitch and have all the information we need, so we can continue load balancing millions of calls. And for the SBC, this is how we use it for media services, let's say voicemail conferences. And for the SBC part, we're using Opensips and RTP Engine. And we have seen that in using that architecture, we have the most reliable and most performance we can get from our SBCs, because there are situations that you can't have many boxes for SBCs for some reasons. So you may need to have only 1-2 boxes. So we have stick with that for now in our setup. But this doesn't mean that you can also use FreeSwitch and OpenShips for your SBC purposes.
Yeah, for sure.
We have tested that, and it works really well. And I remember some cases, some years ago, I think one year ago, when we had some negotiation issues about media SDP negotiation issues that for some reason only we were able to work with FreeSwitch to solve them. So as I told you before, we use the right tool for the right job.
Yeah, for sure. So,
And
since
yes,
you're an expert in telephony, there's something I always ask. You run a lot of servers, you run a lot of connectivity. Do you use any of the containerization or virtualization packages? If so, what do you run on? Docker, Kubernetes, anything else?
yes, all of our infrastructure right now in our next generation platform, who are deploying now, and we have in beta stage, and I hope by the end of this year or the start of 2023, yes, we are fully in Docker containers, and our architecture is based on microservices architecture. So we have Opensips in containers, we have our FreeSwitch Asterisk in containers, and any part we use also CG rates for billing, and all of them are built inside the containers. We have the infrastructure um, as code tools to make them all this work. And yes, we're not Kubernetes fans. When we were searching for the containers many years ago, how to continue our work, we chose not to go with the Kubernetes
Yeah.
uh,
We were
let's say
discussing
style.
Kubernetes with another guest just a few days ago, and it feels like companies who've taken that route have gotten good results out of it. But you really need to set some time aside and say, okay, so this month we're going to work almost only on getting Kubernetes to not only work but really understanding how it should run. You can go by steps. You start with Docker, then you add Kubernetes. There's plenty of paths through it, but it feels like people have been doing good work with Kubernetes, but you really need to decide. Okay, so sorry. It's okay. So this month we're only going to do this. Like no projects, no new
Okay.
development, and then maybe that's just the way. I don't know.
When I started almost 3 years ago designing this new architecture, I really studied for a month the whole Kubernetes, and Kubernetes 3 years ago was not the same. That is right now. But one thing that still remains the same, it has to do if you want to run Kubernetes in production with multi-master nodes locally in your own data center, you don't want to deal with it. If you have a small team like we have. So I have balanced the work, the time, the people, and I said, okay, no. And what we did was that we only focused on Dockerizing our applications, make them each one as a separate, let's say, repository with their own branches, with their own tags, and then we felt much more not secure, but it was easier for us, and we started with AWS and the Elastic Container Service, and we created all of our infrastructure using their own platform. So we just create the containers and we run them on AWS. And 1 year later, 1.5 year later, they have released the ECS Anywhere. I don't know if you are familiar with this. This is a daemon that you can run on your own data center, and you can bring up containers that you have already developed with your own, let's say, Terraform or any other infrastructure as code framework by just adding a small tag. So you can bring up containers on your own region, on your own bare metal machine, without creating and doing anything else from your side regarding except servers management that you always do when you have your own data center. So what we did, we have some bare metal servers here, and using Terraform, we install Docker containers and all the applications in Frankfurt, which is our main region, or in Greece, which is our region for the Greek customers. So yes, Docker and managed Docker service from AWS right now.
So you don't use
But
Docker Swarm.
I was going to use that in our local data center here, but it was the same time that AWS announced the ECS Anywhere. So we just dropped the idea and moved forward with ECS because we had already our tools ready to deploy. So by just changing where we want to deploy, by adding external to the task that we want to deploy, the services were deployed to our Greek data center without more effort from our side. So no use to there was no extra work for us, because if you know Docker Swarm, it also pretty challenging to create a multi-master node for production.
Because I mean, yes, you have to know how to. I've used it for a long time, but yeah, it's not easy to get right for sure.
Yeah, it was very easy to start with one master node and many workers. I really like that for development purposes. But when you need to go on production, you need to think of okay, if my master goes down, what I do, and then you start to realize that, of course, it's not like Kubernetes. It's much easier to set up, but we think that it's more easier for us to manage our Docker containers separately and using an external service right now. So we are using AWS for that. Also, AWS announced local zones here in Greece, and then for the next they will be ready the next few months. So this is also
Oh,
a great,
really? That's good.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. They announced local zones some months ago. I hope by the end of 2023 we may have some good news here.
That will
Yes,
be
it's
that's going to be useful for many geographical areas. Like it's closer to Turkey, it's close to a lot of
yes,
places, so it's going to be very useful.
yeah. Microsoft and Google also announced a region here in Greece, and as I can understand, they finally realized that Greece might be a strategic point for the
Well,
Middle
it,
East,
it has
and
always been right in the
it's
past.
as this for the for the strategic purposes always have been, but they finally realized that regarding the networking and uh, and the cloud, it will also be so. Microsoft started 1 year ago and announced that they will create data center here. And last month, Google also announced a region here in Greece. These are great news for us here because we were always uh, we couldn't let's say offer many we didn't had this opportunity from the cloud uh, services we can offer if you don't have them real close to your customers. So that
Yeah,
was the reason that we had to deploy and manage our own bare metal servers. So we started like that when we started the company because we needed our media to be close to our customers, and this is very important, and you know that.
yeah. We SignalWire spends a lot of work and a lot of money even on getting the nodes closer to customers, and we have the ability to deploy it to different regions if we are not there yet. But yeah, it is extremely important. This day with voice, especially web, you can get away with caching and
Mm,
layers and all the stuff. But voice is not that way, so you have to be there when it
yeah, and
counts.
the most common problem for any guy working in the telecom in the voice over IP industry is that the cloud companies and the cloud services they are often offering they are not built for voice over IP. They are built for the web. They are built for other services, but not for real-time applications. And only the last few years, they are starting to realize also, and they are starting to offering networking services that will bring those media services
Yeah.
closer to the.
Plus, there are entire companies. To be fair, like if you there are multiple companies whose almost only product is just getting just quotes. It's important. Is
Yes,
getting latency to be as low as possible. So there is really a lot going on there for sure.
yes, yes,
It
and
is
for many.
extremely important.
Yes, yes, and with local zones from AWS, we're going to get a single millisecond latency. So this is what we have right now with our data center here in Greece. So if we get the same performance, yes, we will also move some workloads there and be able to offer. Much more reliable services to our customers. So yes, regarding the question about the Docker and the architecture, I think that this is the way uh, anyone who would like to move forward and create more teams to work with separate projects and be more productive, it's the way to go. It took us about 2.5 years to finish that. Let's say I
Wow,
won't say
really?
migration. Yeah, because as I told you, we're a small team. so we had to do most of the part ourselves. But it wasn't like a migration for us. It was like creating the new platform on using new tools. So creating new services, also using new tools. That was the reason it took us so long to match them together. So when you have a small team, it's the sacrifice that you need to do. So we took it and we say, okay, we will offer it when it's ready, and we are very happy that by the time we are speaking now, we are almost 90% ready to go live. And of course, we never we will never think that we didn't went to the right approach uh, for our new architecture by using Docker containers and for all of our services.
Well, yeah, that's important. Cool.
Yes,
So,
and also there is no, let's say, because many people think that there is always impact if you run free suites on Docker,
oh
and
yeah, that's important. Yeah.
let's say let's talk about that a little bit. Uh, if you look and you see what is important for you, and okay, let's say that you lose 10%, for example, of your performance if you run on Docker container, which is not real. But if this helps you to scale, you should choose it.
Oh yeah, right.
But it's not the
Yeah, the
case.
quality of the single call is not very different. What's different is how many, for example, you can run on a node. Then if it's so easy to spin up a node, you can just have more, and that solves it.
You see, and right now there are many other also solutions regarding networking drivers being very close to the network card. So there are many, let's say, ways so you can increase throughput with lower latency. And if you don't want to deal with it, just run free suites using network host mode, and 90% of your problems will go away. So
Oh, yeah, that's what I run. To be fair, I am almost always set up to run with the network host on Docker, and then figuring things out after. It's much better than having to deal with routing, etc. There are exceptions, but in general, if you can do that, it's much easier. You're right, and you don't lose anything to it. The problem is really problem. I wouldn't even call it a problem. The issues are really only with the networking part of Docker, nothing else.
yes. But
Cool. Well,
if you want to be more seriously regarding network performance, you should check about the Docker SRV IO. If you know the project is from an open source Mellanox driver for networking, being very close to the Ethernet networking device. So if you are very serious regarding the performance, you should check it.
wow, that's interesting. So it's pass-through access to the network card directly, right?
It gives you like let's say direct, let's say access or native access, as they say it, to the PCIe based device. So I haven't used that because, as I told you, we solved the problem by adding more instances. But it has two modes. This driver, it has the pass-through mode and the default one. But you should check it if anyone is very serious about performance on Docker containers regarding the network.
Sounds like a very useful recommendation. Thank you. Uh, I'll keep it in my arsenal because we're doing some interesting new setups recently. So it's something I really want to take a look at.
Yeah, you should try and see the SRVIO plugin from Mellanox and see if this goes faster. And let me know.
I will, of course. Well, Vasilios, thank you very much for joining us today. It's always interesting to talk to someone who has such experience in voice over IP, and we've been able to give people lots of interesting information. And well, thank you again. I won't say I'll meet you. Maybe I can meet you at ClueCon because it's next week. But I hope I'll meet you at ClueCon the next year. So
Yes,
we'll.
let's go for the next year. Thanks God, OpenShips Summit was also in Athens this year because I have a newborn child at
Oh, that
two
was
months
perfect. Yeah.
two 2 months old, and I couldn't leave Greece, so that was let's say a gift for me. But
Mhm.
let's see how it goes if we can meet in person in the next ClueCon or any other conference. Who knows?
Yeah, I travel a lot, so maybe. Well, thank you very
Thank
much again, Vasilios Tzanoudakis, and for joining us today. And for the rest of the people, I'll see you next week. Bye.
thank you.